Paul, how many years has Microsoft Teams been around? Don't
uh,
spoil the plot.
I know where you're going with this. At least three,
No, it's
four?
been longer than that.
Yes, I don't even know. Maybe
When did
five.
Microsoft
I know I should know
announce
better.
Teams? I think it's five, something like that.
It might be five. I feel like they just
2017. So
yeah.
5 years.
And what you does it say the month?
March 14th.
March. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like they just celebrated the fifth anniversary.
I think that was that when they announced it? Yeah, that's when they announced it. So I guess maybe
Okay.
it released a little bit. No, initial release, March 14th. Whatever.
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
Sure.
No, Paul. I'm not trying to stir the pot here. I'm not trying to stir the pot. Microsoft inside of Windows has a little thing called a store. And they have been, Paul, they have been telling us for years that is the premier place to get all the latest and greatest applications. And finally, after 5 years has gone by, you'll finally, maybe, be able to download Teams from the store. Did
you see my tweet about this morning?
I did not.
So let me see if I can find this. So Microsoft Teams coming soon to the Microsoft Store. I'm like, it just took them so long to clear the quality hurdles.
Wow, that is.
Try to say that one without laughing and crying at the same time. Boy. There are some.
Yeah.
I think about the developer stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm putting this situation where I kind of have to defend Microsoft, not because I feel like they're in the right, but people will ask, I don't understand why Microsoft doesn't use their own frameworks and developer environments to create things like Microsoft Teams, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a web app of it's made in some kind of crappy Facebook technology, whatever the hell it is. And Electron, right? Electron app. Is that what it is? Or what it was?
I think
something like that.
They're supposed to be moving away from that, but they're...
Yeah, everyone should move away from that. But, Microsoft has WinRT. They have what Universal Apps, I guess we call it now. They have Maui. Well, they will have Maui. They had Xamarin. Like, why didn't Microsoft use any of that stuff? And Microsoft, from a developer's perspective, is open to everything, and Microsoft's own developers are open to everything. It's the Satya Nadella's Microsoft. We're not using our own stuff. I mean, arguably, Microsoft really never used its own stuff a lot anyway. I mean, there are no major versions of, WPF apps from Microsoft other than the Visual Studio shell. They made some WinRT / Windows Store / whatever apps. When Windows 8, obviously, they were all terrible. But I don't know what to tell you. I guess cross-platform is the reason they wanted one code base. But, I think the one thing we can all agree with Teams is functionality, interesting, useful, etc., obviously. But, man, what a bloated pig of an app this thing is. Mm-hmm. And, I think sometimes when you write one block of code, body of code for every platform, and you have to do all the if-then-else's or whatever you're doing to figure out what you're running on, I mean, that's got to be one of the byproducts. I'm not saying native code is always better, yada, yada, yada. They shouldn't have written it in C++ or anything. But, I mean...
Maybe.
I don't know. I know. Well, we're so far down the rabbit hole now. What's the difference? I mean, you can't... They couldn't fix this now. It's got a whole app model built on top of it, I don't know how you fix something like this.
Well, they're going to try or something. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, I know. That's right. No, you're right. And I remember early on with Teams, one of the goals was it would become a PWA at some point.
Yeah.
The world's heaviest PWA. I don't think they've ever achieved that goal, even though, honestly, it's not hard to make a PWA. Anyway, okay. Teams. Welcome to Teams.
So, Paul, here's some...
We're using Teams right now.
Yeah, that's true. Here's some... You'll see where I'm going with this as I vomit this into the podcast. So one of the interesting things that we've been poking around with related to the taskbar in Windows 11. Mm-hmm. You'll start. Yeah. But this is more. This isn't like what we're doing. This is us reading the petroglyphs on the spaghetti code that we have been able to reduce out of Windows 11. The taskbar that shipped with Windows 11 versus the taskbar that is in the insider and dev channels is pretty different on the back end. Like, pretty
compared to Windows 10. I assume.
well. I mean, no, just the two iterations of the Windows 11 taskbar. They've made some like really core changes to it to the point where we actually have a feature that works on dev and beta because it was easier to implement, and we just said screw it, it's not going to ship on the release. They'll eventually update it or whatever. It's like two different people wrote it, and then they're using more Win32 APIs, we believe now, and the newer stuff. We can also tell too that Microsoft has built the new version that is in the dev and beta channels to be much easier to update outside of big releases than waiting for annual updates.
So what you've just described, A, is not surprising.
Yeah.
But okay. But B is very reminiscent of the situation with Windows Phone, right? Which first shipped with this kind of Silverlight developer environment, and it was whatever it was. It only ran on single core phones, I think was the issue at the time. And as they moved forward, there were 7 point whatever releases. But when they went to 8 and 8.1, that thing was like a multi-core WinRT based, Windows 8 based, different platform. And I think they just ran in. It was like, well, we need to ship something quick. We have this thing that works. We know that when we move forward, we're going to have to completely wipe and replace. But the thing we're wiping and replacing is so simplistic. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So this version of the taskbar that shipped in October will be around for like a year, but now it seems to me like they finally made some plumbing moves here.
Yep.
Where they have a sustainable platform. I don't know what to call it.
But
like
the weird thing is the plumbing moves are almost more regressive in nature from a like if you think about what Windows 10X was going to be, and then now what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like they're moving backwards a little bit, but here we are.
This is what we saw with Windows 8. It's like, it's going to be limited. It's going to be different.
Charms, man. Bring back the Charms bar.
Charms.
Speaking of Lucky Charms, you see like a whole bunch of people were vomiting after eating.
Yeah. I'm surprised anyone even noticed. You ate Lucky Charms. What do you think was going to happen? This stuff is made out of like DuPont chemicals. And
DuPont chemicals?
Like, how do you think they made those colors?
You know how they say where the rubber meets the road? Well, DuPont's back there just scraping that. I'm just like,
the rubber meets the cereal bowl.
We could use this again.
That's an interesting green color. Do we have a green Lucky Charm yet?
I bet they do.
I'm sure they do. It's a shamrock, right?
Yeah. Which, by the way, Paul, I think I had to have said this joke the tee up that I'm doing with broccoli milkshakes to my daughter. Have I told you this? I had to have said this. Okay.
I don't think so. I don't remember it.
So for years, my daughter's always like, what are we having for dinner? And just the thing that I vomit out is we're having broccoli milkshakes. Like, that's it. Like, that's what I've been saying. And she'd be like, those aren't real. So when the Shamrock shakes come back from McDonald's,
nice.
I'm going to tell her it's a broccoli milkshake, and I'm just going to be.
And then just suck it down.
Yeah,
what you should do is throw a piece of broccoli in there.
Yeah.
Just as a little,
you got to go. You got to go for the long trauma. Like, that's how you really get your kids. Not that short stuff. You really got to tee it up over the years.
Became hip to the phrase, like, they would ask if they could do or get something, right? Or go somewhere, whatever it was. And they would ask my wife, and she would say, we'll see. And then at a very early age, my kids understood that we'll see means no.
Yeah.
Right. So we were in Mexico, and I don't remember what the heck it was. I was like, I texted the kids, and I was like, I asked your mother if I could do whatever it was, and she said, we'll see. And I know that we'll see means no. And they were like, yes, totally. Like, they're adults now. And I'm like, guys, I'm messing with you. Obviously, I was in on this.
So I was at my parents' house yesterday because my dad was having some computer problems and other reasons I was over there, but whatever. So his old computer, I think it just died. This thing was probably from 1994. It's old, so old that there were two hard drives in there. One was a SATA drive, and the other one was that old, I don't even know what it is, the pins.
Was it an ISO
IDE?
Drive or
IDE.
IDE, you're right. Yep,
anyways,
IDE, yep.
So he smartly went out and bought some sort of contraption, maybe from Micro Center, that allows you to plug into the IDE or SATA, and there's a little switch, and then it converts it. It's not a USB enclosure, but it's basically the guts of one.
Yep.
And so he'd been screwing with this thing for, I don't know, a couple days, and he couldn't get the USB thing. You'd plug it in, the computer would recognize it, but it would think it was a DVD drive, and couldn't get it figured out. Okay. So I go over there, I look at it for like 30 seconds. I'm like, Dad, it's not plugged in. See this power cord? It's in that
incredible.
that outlet.
So it had just enough power through the bus to kind of see it, but not enough to actually power spin it.
Right. And so, because like first thing I did was I picked
funny.
up the hard drive, and it's like, this thing isn't spinning.
Yeah, because you would feel, my God, that thing would vibrate like a,
Oh yeah, it's loud as
it would
could be.
vibrate off your hand if you let it,
And so I looked at my dad. I'm like, how long do I get to hold this over you? Is it plugged in? Is always step one. Is it turned on? Step two.
Yeah,
So
that's funny.
Yeah.
So you got his stuff, I hope.
well, yeah. As soon as he turned that on, the computer's like, this is a hard drive with 80 gigs or whatever.
This is a good thing for everyone to have, not necessarily for IDE drives, but I have the same thing you're describing. It used to be a bay you would put stuff in, but now you just plug it in. You leave the drive out. Who cares? You're just going to copy it over. But yeah, I mean, anyone who does what we do should have something like that.
Yeah, simple enough. We've got it working.
Yeah.
So there we go. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank goodness.
I know. Every day I wake up and I think, is this it? I'm like, no.
Is that asteroid still coming?